continue with identity, with I think with what would be the most telling as to what is truly our identity, but what truly, I'm not talking about ultimately truly, but rather what really mirrors our identity and in our reactions. And it's something that we try to, it's the reaction in a sense of either trying to hold back from reacting, which is itself a reaction, or the spontaneous behavior that comes from us, either the spontaneous thoughts that comes up, to the spontaneous actual physical actions that we take, spontaneous words that we say. They're all telling as to identity, okay? And that's what I'm talking about our true identity. And not talking about true identity in a sense of ultimate, divine, that kind of stuff. That's more of the, still at the level of conventional, okay? The part of our identity, the aspect of our identity that is very moldable, okay? And that we feel is what continues, what we feel continues, okay? And this is where we need to do a lot of work. And before we can actually go into the moldable aspect of identity, first we have to first find out what is there, what is there to work with, okay? And it points to, and this level of knowing what is there to mold is an aspect of wisdom, So knowing what's there to work with. And I think a lot of people who are in the spiritual realm or in the self-awakening or in whatever form, whatever term you want to use it, there's a lot of bypassing, there's a lot of overstepping because there are aspects of our identity that is mostly hidden from us. And even though they're not ultimate, that require some deep, profound perception of some ultimate nature of reality, but rather a sincere look at what is present. Okay? A lot of us overstep that. A lot of us bypass that. A lot of us are afraid to look at what is there. And because of that, we are actually holding ourselves back from making progress. Okay? Even though it may be necessary in the beginning for some of us to not look into it, but eventually we have to look at the bucket. We have to see what's in there. Because they're all moldable things, and they are the very material that we will need to continue to construct and create. Okay. All right. So let's hope we can get into it. So let's begin with our regular meditation. Very nice to see faces that I haven't seen, faces that I've seen, and names whose faces are not there, but I see the names. All right. Well, let's begin. Let's get ourselves into the mode of receptivity, conjuring up our innate manjushri, our innate capacity to understand. So bring yourself into a state where the body is conducive to enter the meditative state. Feel a sense of comfort in the body. By merely bringing awareness to that comfort in the body, it communicates discomfort, or it allows discomfort to go to other parts of our being. It goes to the behavior of the breath. And eventually it affects the mind, causing those other parts of our being to also experience the comfort. The comfort is a preliminary sign. If we stay with it, it's a preliminary sign that we are indeed approaching and getting closer and closer to this fundamental nature. That's why in certain meditation manuals, which are considered to be advanced, the first preliminary is said to be relax, without giving any further instructions on how to achieve it. So take that, relax, allow, without any sense of grasping, without any sense of rejecting. Allow that part of us that is protective of the body and sometimes overprotective, and it holds the body in tension. Let us give that part of the body, that part of us that there is safety. It can let go by simply bringing awareness to the point of contact between the body and your seat, and be aware of the sense of support that the seat is giving you. By bringing that awareness, we are communicating to that part that wants to protect the body, that the body is protected, that it is supported, so it can let go. And we experience that letting go by a sense of sort of sinking a little deeper into the cushion, into the seat. If you notice that, we rejoice. And notice how the sense of calm, the sense of comfort is a bit enhanced. Rejoice if you notice that. Remember, the calming is a sign, a definite sign, a palpable sign that we are indeed approaching closer to fundamental being, fundamental nature, natural state. Allow the intelligence within the body to communicate to you, to participate. Listen to it as it guides you. Make adjustments here, make adjustments there, in the legs, in the torso, in the arms and shoulders, allowing for the head and neck to be centered so there's no conscious effort needed to hold the head and neck in place. Allow for the mouth, teeth, tongue to rest in their natural places. Let the eyes rest softly. However, wherever for you is resting for the eyes, closed, slightly opened, halfway opened, or even looking straight ahead. Whatever feels for you a sense of resting for the eyes, adopt that, stay there. Consider the meditative state, this natural state of the mind. When we leave the mind alone, when we leave everything alone, we experience this natural state. And this pleasantness that we are starting to experience in a palpable way in the body is actually a sign that we are indeed approaching, beginning to taste that natural state. So rejoice noticing it, witnessing it. And accompanying this natural calmness, there's also some sort of pleasantness that you can feel palpably in the body, in the breath, as well as the mind. So consider the natural state to be a very enhanced experience of these already state that we are tasting, the calm, the pleasantness. An expansion of consciousness, it's an expansion into more subtle aspects of consciousness, revealing subtle phenomena. Giving us a, a taste of the natural clarity, the natural radiance, the natural focus. So consider that to be that natural state, and you're as if you're standing right in front of it and you're about to dive into it. And the way we commit ourselves to go into it is with a deep breath. So get yourself ready as though you're experienced professional athlete, preparing yourself to engage in your sport, about to dive, about to run, about to do whatever it is. So you're in that moment, that threshold moment from the state outside of the meditative state and in the state as deeply as possible. And you want as much of your being to go in there as much as possible, even from with the first entrance. So feel that sense of readiness in the body. Feel that sense of readiness in the breath. Feel that sense of readiness in the mind. And with that sense of readiness, commit yourself to fully enter deeply, gently through the nose, a nice deep breath. Hold for a few seconds and dive, breathe out through the mouth. And as you dive, let go, let go, let go, let go mentally, let go physically, let go, let go, let go. Leave the breath alone, leave the breath alone, keep letting go, keep letting go. Feel that momentum of diving deeper and deeper into that state. Stay diving, stay in that momentum, stay in that experience. Leave the breath alone and just stay in that momentum, letting go, letting go, letting go. Notice the calm enhancing, notice the pleasantness enhancing, rejoice. Notice the clarity, notice the radiance enhancing through the very sensations arising physically, palpably within the senses. Keep letting go, 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 knowing that you're diving in deeper into that space of natural space. Keep letting go, keep letting go, keep letting go. Just stay, keep letting go, stay in that momentum. While staying in that momentum, gently scan the body, noticing the signs enhancing, rejoicing, noticing the signs of calm and pleasantness in the body, in the legs. Rejoice. Notice the signs in the torso, in the hips, in the abdomen, in the chest, in the spine. Rejoice. Stay in that momentum, stay in that momentum. Notice the signs in the shoulders as you let them go, in the arms, and the hands, and the fingers. Rejoice, noticing the signs, the momentum in the head and neck. Rejoice, noticing the signs in the mouth, teeth, tongue as they rest in their natural places. Rejoice as you notice the signs in the muscles of the face relaxing, forehead relaxing. And in the soft resting of the eyes. Keep feeling that momentum, keep rejoicing. And when the inner sensations do arise, rejoice, celebrate them, welcome them. Whatever they may be for you, tactile sensations, inner sounds, inner visions, energetic experiences, they're all signs of clarity and radiance in a secondary way. Now take any one of these inner signs that's for you strongest, that is for you most attractive, attracting your attention. Stay with it as a guide, as though it's guiding you, holding your hands, taking you deeper and deeper into this natural state where the calm is becoming calmer, the pleasant is becoming more pleasant, more ecstatic. where the clarity, the inner sensations are gaining strength in clarity, gaining strength in vividness, taking you closer and closer to natural clarity, natural luminosity. Staying with them, we will take 3 full breaths to stabilize and deepen. In through the nose, deeply, gently breathe in. Staying connected to that vision, to that sound, to that sensation, whatever it may be for you. Stay connected with it. Have the intention to dive deeper into it. Let go through the mouth. Breathe out. Let the breath come back all its own. Don't force it to come back. If there is a pause, let the pause. Don't pause. Don't force the pause. Don't control the pause. Let it be by natural. And when it's ready to come back, then again, breathe in gently, staying exactly where the out breath took you. Keep hearing, keep seeing, keep feeling. And again, through the mouth, breathe out. And for the third time, the last full breath in through the nose, staying connected. And again, dive. And within this space, within this experience, within this understanding, there's an experience of having tasted something that happened so fast that even the memory of it is fleeting. But it's a sense of having tasted something definite, something connected to real. Stay connected to it. Stay connected to it even in just the memory of it. Keep remembering it and let the memory of it allow you to have even that slight momentary taste again and keep going back to it. Remember, keep letting go. Keep letting go. And gently connect to what may be the source of that spark. Bringing your attention to the space in front of you at the level of your eyebrows. That spark, that momentary taste of something profound. Keep all your senses directed towards that direction. If it was somehow felt as if something you saw, keep all your senses toward the direction of sight. If it felt as though it's something you heard, keep all your senses in the direction of hearing. However it may be, keep all your senses in that direction. And there may be flash of moments where it happens so fast, even the memory is distant. Try to catch those flash of moments, even if it's just a memory. And while directing your senses, your attention in that direction, have a deep sense of respect, deep sense of trust. and for that conviction that it gives you, that it will give you, that it has given you. Have a deep sense of gratitude. And keep now going back to that, either the memory of that spark. And as soon as you feel any sense of having made a connection, even if it's just memory that you're able to hold on to, dive into it, relax into it, stay in its depth, and keep diving into it, holding that sense of gratitude, respect, and trust. Notice where you are, the depth that you've reached. Rejoice. And with the intention to arise from the meditation, take a nice deep breath. Feel and hear the breath in through the nose, out the mouth. And slowly, gently reconnect with your immediate surroundings. Reconnect with your sense of touch. Reconnect with your sense of hearing. And reconnect with your sense of sight. All right. Hope that was okay. It was basically a meditation where you did most of the work yourself. And we're gonna continue this kind of meditation for a while. I don't know for how long, where basically I'll leave you to your own devices and trust you to guide yourself. Okay. So reactions and what they reveal about us, about identity. So I'm not going to, this talk is not going to be, it's not going to be a direct talk as to, okay, what this reaction reveals this about identity. This reaction reveals this about identity. If that's what you were waiting for, sorry, that's not what it's going to be about. Okay. But rather, understanding of an exercise to discover that for our own selves, that when we notice ourselves being reactive, no matter how we judge it, whether we judge it to be something that we want to continue, whether we judge it to be something that we are proud of. And in the wonderful email that Emmett sent out, these reactions are most notable when we find ourselves in situations where we feel like celebrating, or we feel like we are caught, where we feel like we're being accused. When something upsets us, something like that. Okay. The way the text describes this is like when you are supposed to be doing doing deep meditation, where you're about to discover, where you're going to, where the meditation is supposed to lead you to uncovering what you might call your ultimate nature. At first, the first thing that you're supposed to discover is what you're supposed to discover. What is it that you viscerally understand to be your sense of self? It's not that, like last time, it's not that there's a false self and then there's a true self. Okay, well, we talked about that already, and that is in the past. But rather, the self, as we understanding that the any kind of self is a construct. Any kind of self that we experience is a construct, and that is not to say that is a bad thing to say. That is not to say that we are, because it is construct, therefore it is false. But that is the very nature of any self, any identity. Okay, so in our reactions, that is, in our compulsive behavior, it's actually, there's wisdom to be gained in that. When you witness yourself compulsively reacting, whether it is the reaction is considered to be, oh, that's a mental affliction showing up, I'm going to ask you to put aside, especially for those of you who've already had wonderful lectures about, oh, that's an afflictive emotion, stay away from it, anger, jealousy, attachment, these kinds of things. These are wonderful windows into how did we construct the self. And when we notice ourselves spontaneously acting, spontaneously reacting, and it is one of these categories of emotions that is at the forefront of the reaction, at the forefront of engaging, of relating. We need to take a moment to step back and to look at it, so we can have a wisdom as to look what's taking place. Look at you're basically fundamentally at the initial level that will lead to this ultimate experience of the ultimate nature of self. You're having the wisdom that tells you this is the construct of self. Okay. And remember, it's not to say that this is who you are and this is what you're stuck being, but rather it is looking at the different components that make up stuff, looking at the reaction that we have is pointing to what you might call to be what is driving, what is holding up the sense of self, the construct of self. What are the things that are the cements? What is cementing the sense of self? And we have to be able to know all those different components to be able to have a clearer understanding of, okay, this is the self that is constructed. These are the components. And these are the driving forces behind it, holding it together, propelling it in time and space. Okay. And it's going to be very, in a bit of, I would say, at times, whether we are having a wonderful time, whether we are having a horrible time, the horribleness of it or the wonder, the joy of it is not an indication of whether or not we have touched something profound or not touched something profound, okay? But rather it's an indication pointing to and this is a term that I've been using a lot lately, and it's a term that I'm going to force you to start to adopt. It's unconscious convictions. Unconscious convictions. Let me explain that a little bit. Unconscious conviction are, you could say, what we at the depth of our being hold to be true. It doesn't necessarily mean just because they are at a profound level, they are at a deep state, and because I'm putting the word true in there doesn't mean that they are absolutely true, that is, they are true in and of themselves, but rather they are the stuff of things that we at a deep level say, that's true. That's true. And these are what are driving our reactions. These are what driving our spontaneous, what I call spontaneous reactivity. Okay. In a sense, what I'm saying as they are pointing to our true nature, and this true nature, what I'm calling here as true nature, is what you might call our relative nature. Okay. That is what we hold to be our identity. For the most part, our identity, in terms of knowing it, we have different levels. We have different levels of knowing it. We want to get to the deepest level of knowing it. Okay? At the surface level, it could be it is still part of our identity, but at the surface level, there are what we might call a lot of illusions, and I'm talking about illusion in the sense of not in an ultimate sense of illusion. I'm talking about illusion in the sense of where we put layers on top of layers on top of layers on top of layers of. I'm looking for a wonderful word to describe this. of a, I don't want to use a word that we're already familiar with and lead you in the wrong direction. Okay, we have ideas about who we are. We have ideas about who we are. And these ideas are stacked up layers upon layers upon layers upon layers. So we have ideas about ideas, which are ideas about other levels of ideas. And that's at the surface level, you might say it is a superficial understanding of who we are. It is at the level where we carry on a conscious level the idea of who we are, the idea of who we are. And this is completely superficial. This is based upon, this is an idea based upon an idea upon an idea upon an idea, which sits upon an idea. That is, this is an understanding of who I think I am based upon an understanding of who I think I am. Okay, and this is a very superficial level. This is a very superficial sense of self. It has no depth to it. And we witness this changing, vacillating. Sometimes it's one idea, sometimes it's another idea. Sometimes it seems like it's one idea continuing through time, right? So this is one layer of identity. And it is part of our identity. It is that superficial layer of identity. And underneath that, there are other layers of identity. And they're all constructs. That is, they're all made up. They are all things that are made up of essentially emerging from one, essentially coming out of what I'm calling the unconscious conviction. And this unconscious conviction is what we, at the depth of our being, believe to be true. Okay? And sometimes we may even experience at the surface level ideas of self that we think, that we hold to be, that are completely contradicting what we at the fundamental level believe to be true. Okay, an idea of that would be, I think I am shy, but at the fundamental level of unconsciously what I hold to be true is that I am outgoing. Okay, but somehow in between there are interpretations of outgoing, either to being either we picked up from someone, or we picked up from some woman that some outside source, some source that we say to be an authority, that judge outgoingness to be to either be something that we shouldn't be, and then even though at the depth of our being we are outgoing, that's what we believe, but we put on top of that layers and layers of interpretation until at the surface level we have we ascribe to our identity as being shy. And it could be because of layers of perception that being outgoing is not something that we should be. It's not a good thing to have as part of our identity. Okay. I hope that example wasn't too bad of an example. Okay. So what's driving reactivity? So let's say, for example, at a surface level, I say I am shy, but at the deepest level, at the level of, and this, what I'm calling the deepest level here is not the level it's not the level of what we might call the absolute level. It's still conventional, okay? It is still at the level of, it is still this big construct that we have about self, okay, that has these different levels. And what is holding the entire construct together, the entire construct of self together, is this deepest level of conviction of what is true, okay? And that too has its reasons why So there is a reason why at the fundamental level, for example, we have this, you could say at the deepest place of identity, I'm outgoing, I should be outgoing. There's a reason for that also. And even though at the surface level, I identify myself as being shy, or I try to project an identity of being a shy person. And since the fundamental, the deepest, what I'm calling the unconscious conviction of what I hold to be true, what I truly hold to be true, all these layers of identity, uh, uh, they are, you could say, they exist because they're being held together by some sense of that they are true. They are being held together. They're all the parts that make us up, all the things that are part of the construct of self. They're the glue that's holding them together is some sense that they are true. Okay, and the truth that we are talking about here is not absolute truth. Okay, is whatever we sense, whatever we sense to be true. Okay, and there's a deepest level, or the unconscious level of truth. That is, even if these layers of construct over time that we do experience them, we find out, oh, that's not true. We throw it away. That's not true. We throw it away. But what's really bringing into to make up our identity is this unconscious conviction. And with the example, at the surface level, I am shy, but at the conscious level, unconscious truth is that I am outgoing. Even though, and this is something that I have to almost at exhausting, almost with a sense, almost to the point of exhaustion. I have to keep propping this up. I have to keep propping this up. And then this will be tiring to your entire being. And it will exhaust you because you have to keep propping it up, even though it contradicts the deepest unconscious truth. And because of that, you will encounter conflicts, inner conflicts, where, and the conflict will be pointed to by our spontaneous reactions. When we encounter those very passionate moments, or where we take we might even take certain substances that release our inhibitions, for example. Okay, and what is allowed to come through those things are really the unconscious convictions. So even though at the surface I am working very hard to hold this construct that I am shy, and yet at those moments when I've reached exhaustion, and we reach exhaustion when we encounter someone who sort of has the ability to bypass, either through the way they're relating with us, the kind of words that they say, the kind of things that they do, they're able to somehow stimulate the part of our identity that is the unconscious conviction. And then having pierced through all that through all that layer, then the reaction comes out. Then you find yourself behaving, acting, doing things that are not representative of someone who keeps saying that I'm shy. And the opposite could also be true. And these and most of us experience these different levels of holding contradictory truth about our identity. And it is because of these, it is the dynamic, you could say, where one truth and another opposite truth meet, and it's where these opposite truths meet and they are seeking to cancel each other. And that's when these spontaneous reactions come up. And this may happen where we are trying at the level of, at the surface level of reasoning, trying to hold on to the construct of this is who I am, this is who I am, this is who I am, but it is in contradiction with unconscious conviction. And somehow these two come into contact with one another, and they have to annihilate opposite truths cannot abide in the same space. So one of them has to go. And the one that goes is the one that is not connected to unconscious conviction. So when we are reacting, when someone says something, when someone does something to us, and we are surprised at our reaction, the reaction is actually pointing to what we are holding unconsciously as true. So it is a time for us to gain wisdom. And the wisdom that I'm referring to is not necessarily wisdom that somehow we have made a direct experience of ultimate truth, okay? But rather the true or those ideas that we are holding at the depth of our being to be our identity. Remember, these two are construct. These are things that can change. That's what it means. These are construct. They are things that can change. If at the deepest level, I am convinced that I am, the unconscious conviction is that I am shy, but I'm holding at the surface level that I'm outgoing. And these two will have a friction with one another. And the reactivity will be present when they meet. Now, if I allow myself to have that friction to take place, that inner discomfort to take place, and it will point to me, this is what this inner discomfort is pointing to. It's pointing to conflicting ideas about who I am. And here, it's not that one of them is true ultimately, or no. I mean, it's not that one of them is false and one of them is the real you, the real ultimate you. Okay, they are all both of them. They're both constructs, and it can flip. It can flip where what's at the surface becomes the unconscious conviction, and what's at the unconscious conviction can become the surface. The work here to be done is to acknowledge that they are there, that they are present. And what we are supposed to do is to, when we notice the reactions, the reactivity that surprise us, at that moment, the point of all this, at the moment when our reactions surprise us, is to understand we have at that moment an incredible, beautiful opportunity to know the different aspects of what is constructing us, or what are the different ideas that is making us up, and especially the unconscious convictions to come to the surface to now become conscious conviction, to become conscious awareness. Sometimes, not all, sometimes, most of the time, these unconscious convictions are themselves holding on to a misunderstanding. Okay, they arise from a misunderstanding. All right. Now I have to go back a little bit to talk about. Remember, I said at all these levels, there are different levels of what we consider to be true. Okay. We do not hold any conviction unless we have an experience, whatever that experience may be, that somehow, in some level, validates that experience to have some degree of truth to it. That is, we hold on to it as being true. That is, we hold on to it as somehow pointing to something that is really there, okay? And the reactions that we have are true or moment, or you could say a moment of pointing to truth. And this is not ultimate truth. They are pointing to truth in a sense of what we hold to be true. Okay, we hold these truths to be self-evident. Okay, so they are pointing to what we hold to be true. And this exercise of discovering what we hold to be true is essential to being able to one day have a direct experience of what you might call ultimate truth. Unless we discover these degrees of what we hold on as true, we will never be able to get to an experience of ultimate truth. Okay, we have to go through that, and sometimes it will be painful, and there's no going around it. Okay, and the reason for the pain of it is most of the time the friction between what seems to be holding on to opposite ideas that are opposite of each other, where one has to annihilate each other. It is in the annihilation of one or the other that we're experiencing this pain. Okay. An example would be you think that you're a compassionate person. You project yourself as being a compassionate person, and you look for signs for validation that you're a compassionate person, and you become very biased in this perception. Remember, perception itself is not an absolute thing. What we perceive is not necessarily what is being presented to us. Sometimes what we perceive is what we want to perceive. And I'm not talking about in terms of just imagination, okay? So, but at a fundamental level, we become, we are very biased in what we perceive. And the very act of perception is fundamental to validating truth. And since perception is itself is moldable, is something that is not fixed, we can make ourselves perceive things in order for the process of validating what we hold to be true, so we can continue to hold it as true. So I project and I look for, and I make myself become somewhat biased in my perception so I can perceive validations. Oh, I'm a compassionate person. I'm a compassionate person. But what I am projecting as an identity of compassion at the unconscious level could be fear. Could be fear that, and I'll make it very easy. It could be fear that if I don't want to be perceived as not being a compassionate person. And that could be it. Because I have fear, not what you could say ideally to be the reason, the true reason for being a compassionate person, but rather fear of not being perceived as being compassionate. And this is the driving force. And this is an unconscious conviction, okay? And I'm calling it unconscious conviction in the sense that they cause reactivity, right? And how do we perceive? So I'm at the very surface level, at the superficial level, I'm saying I'm propping up. I'm using energy to keep holding up. And this is something that we have to create and recreate at a micro moment level, continuously creating this. No wonder we get exhausted with these with these superficial identities, okay? So I'm a compassionate person, I'm a compassionate person, I'm a compassionate person. And I keep looking for signs that say, yeah, you're a compassionate person, you're a compassionate person. And at times we do things, I will do things to not necessarily driven by compassion, but rather driven by the need to be perceived, to validate that I'm a compassionate person. Okay. And someone does something, someone says something, someone looks a certain way, and then and somehow they bypass this superficial idea that I have about who I am, and it touches me at an unconscious level, at the unconscious level of fear, which is what is really holding it, right? And now my reaction will surprise me, because I will find myself not acting out of compassion. Now, for some people, especially when we have the superficial ideas of I am virtuous, I am compassionate, I am loving, all that kind of stuff, and we do this propping up so well, so fast, that we have a deep degree of conviction of convincing ourselves that this is who I am. And we become very lazy also when we do that. We become lazy at not being really compassionate, not being really truly loving, or whatever, or virtuous, or whatever those things are, because all those are superficial, okay? Because at the deep level, there is, you could say, an affliction, what we really might call an affliction of fear, anxiety, or something like that. And these are there also for their reason also, but we're not going to go there, right? So I'm loving, I'm compassionate, and then something happens that which bypasses the superficial. Somehow it goes into the unconscious layer of identity, the unconscious conviction. And then the reaction, that is a spontaneous reaction, surprises me, because I find myself not acting, not saying, not doing something that should be compassionate. And when I witness myself doing that, and now I'm not able to bypass the biasness of perception, and it contradicts the idea that I have, then immediately, of course, what do I become? I become defensive. I become argumentative. And this reaction of being defensive or argumentative is a sign. If I allow myself to just perceive, look at myself, observe myself, look at me being defensive. Look at me being argumentative. And allow that to take place. That will give me wisdom as to, I guess, yes, it's a wonderful thing to be compassionate, but there's something else at the deeper level, which is really controlling, really determining what you might call my true character, so to speak. Okay, and that will allow you, if you allow yourself to perceive it without judging it. Don't say, I guess I'm not compassionate, or I'm an evil person, I guess I have no merit, I guess I have no don't do that whiny kind of thing, okay? Throw that out, okay? It's time to stop being little babies, okay? Grow up. You're observing something, you have an opportunity to gain wisdom, okay? And the first layer of wisdom is the layer of wisdom to say, what is the construct that is there that I have to work through so I can get to the ultimate? Now this is an opportunity. This is not an opportunity for me to bash myself and say, I guess I'm not compassionate, I guess I'm not loving. Please, okay? Don't do that. It's wonderful. There's some sort of there's some kind of wonderful aspect to it, to want to be compassionate, to see yourself as compassionate. Okay, now you have an opportunity to really be that. When you see yourself being defensive, being argumentative, because somehow you're seeing your reaction is not the reaction of compassion or of love. Now you're able to now have an idea of what is truly guiding, what is at the truth, what is at the depth of your character, what is really at the depth of your character, what is really there. And when you're able to, and by following, just by being aware of the argument, by being aware of being defensive, and allow yourself to experience, I'm being defensive. Really, the defensiveness will help you to gain the wisdom. The wisdom I'm talking about here. This is the unconscious conviction driving my personality. And at those moments when I thought I was being compassionate, I was really being fearful. And I was actually, in some way or another, demonstrating an aspect of fear. And I didn't know that. Now you have wisdom. Now you know that this compassion was really fear. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that a wonderful insight to gain? Instead of bashing yourself, saying, "Oh, I guess I'm not compassionate. I guess I'm not loving. I'm not a loving person. I'm an evil person." That, please, okay. Now you have wisdom. Now you understand. Oh, so this is what's driving this. This is what's giving the appearance. Oh, look how fear can give the appearance of compassion, and it could be something else too. It could be anger. Anger could give the appearance of compassion. Attachment can give the appearance of compassion. And the reason that it may appear all these different things can give the appearance of compassion is because of all those layers that are in between the unconscious conviction and then what you finally have at the surface level. Okay. And it's not to say that we should, the surface level is the level that we somehow should get rid of. There will always be a surface level. What you might say is you want the surface level to be a reflection, a truer reflection of the unconscious, where, and when that happens, there's no longer unconscious, there's no longer, you could say, a conflict between unconscious conviction and surface, okay? There's an idea that is found in some supposedly high high level of teachings, where you reach a certain degree of how do you say, of being able to observe yourself without fully engaging. Okay, so that is, you're able to be argumentative, you're able to be defensive, you're able to be all those reactionary kind of things, or you're able to jump for joy when, I don't know, when that even would surprise you. Women, I shouldn't be jumping for joy when I'm with this, but here I am jumping for joy. Okay, so you're able to allow those things to happen and have the strength to bear the consequences of them, of course, and also have the fortitude of being the strength to be able to observe from an objective point of view, able to observe that without being fully engaged in it. It's like developing a third person personality where you're not where you're not lost in insanity. Okay. But you're able to have a kind of a third person perspective from your own self, able to observe all these things, able to observe all those, and the highest level of this high, let's not call it the highest level, okay? Just a high level of teaching, where you're told to, when jealousy comes up, when attachment comes up, when desire comes up, when anger comes up, when these reactionary emotions seems to come up, celebrating something that is painful, these kinds of things, when they come up, you allow them to come up, but you don't necessarily express them in speech or necessarily if you're caught up in speech, for example, unless you're caught up in speech and you then have a sense of witnessing yourself speaking. But before they become speech, before they become means to further conviction, or before they become actual actions, just look at the emotional state of them. And while you're just looking at the emotional state of them, just observing them, that will give you an opportunity to look at the different links where they're linked to. What is it that is causing them to come into being? What is it that's causing them to come into, to make an appearance? Okay, and that's where you want to have a deep look into. So, and at the, would you say, at the higher levels of teaching, and this is, take that with a you know, with caution. Okay, take that with caution. So you allow the jealousy to be, you allow these afflictions to be, while not being fully engaged in them. That is, not being fully identified with them, but simply observe. You're just observe. You're like a third person observing another person. And that's how you will discover what I'm referring to as what we are holding on as true. Okay, what we are holding on as true. In a psychological way of explaining this, this would be easier to explain that way, like giving a psychological example. Again, not that there are these absolute origins, but just for the sake of having a conversation, just for the sake of getting an understanding. You are a baby in your crib, you are hungry, and you woke up, you were sleeping and you woke up, you're hungry, and this hunger is primal, and you don't understand, you don't have you don't have enough means to understand what's going on, but it is an experience that you're having that you wish at the primal level that you're not experiencing. And you look around, you look around, and someone walks in, and then they feed you. And as they feed you, the bottle drops or something, the bottle falls. Okay. But and there's perception going on. There's perception going at the very primal level, right? But for some reason, you interpret this as, there's an interpretation of this, you're holding this as a truth, okay? I should not be satisfied. When there is hunger, in the process of satiating this hunger, there should be a moment where I'm not worthy of having this hunger being satisfied. And we hold on to this as a truth, and it's unconscious. And when we, even though at the surface level, we want to be satisfied, we want to experience full satisfaction, because we are holding on to this as a truth of our identity. I should not be satisfied because of that, let's say because of that experience, okay? Then, as you go through life, seeking to, we have the surface understanding, or I want satisfaction. But for some reason, we are unable to achieve satisfaction, no matter what we do, okay? And when, you might say, when we are called by some event, by someone, for something that happens, to we are called out to know, is this our identity? And yet the reaction comes up, the reactivity comes up, where we are doing something, we find ourselves doing something to not arrive at satisfaction, okay, or being satiated. And when we observe that, and it could be like, I want to give a more direct experience. Okay, you're in a loving relationship with someone, and all the signs that, oh, this is a beautiful relationship. We make each other happy, makes me happy, I make her happy. And yet, because of this unconscious conviction is present and we don't know it, so we are now approaching a perception that contradicts, wait a minute, my identity is not to be satisfied, not to be satiated, not to be happy fully. And here I am experiencing something that contradicting this. So the reactivity to validate this, that when strangely enough, when this person might be doing something, and this is not something that's going to happen immediately, of course. It's like maybe a long time after the relationship, and now there's more mounting evidence that this person is making you happy, but that's not your identity. You shouldn't be happy. And now with this mounting evidence that's contradicting this, now eventually there's going to be a reaction. So what are we going to do? We are going to someone makes a suggestion, and makes a suggestion that makes a suggestion that bypass the superficial level idea that we have about ourselves, and it goes to this unconscious truth that we're holding about ourselves, and we react, and the reaction would be we make ourselves do something where it will end up where we are unhappy, to validate this unconscious conviction. Okay, and that could be something that a lot of people may experience, especially, unfortunately, we have all those different kinds of influence that props up who we are. Okay, and that could be one of the convictions that we have. So when this person makes a suggestion, and here we react out of anger, and we surprise ourselves, either later on, we surprise ourselves, wait a minute, what was I angry about that? Okay. So next time, so rather than criticize yourself, saying that you're a bad person, that you're an awful person, that don't create any more illusions. There's already all these layers of illusion. We don't need any more illusions about who you're supposed to be. Okay. So don't create any more illusions about you're awful, you're evil, all that kind of stuff. Okay. So rather make a point, not so much I will not act out of anger. Okay, that's very nice for you to do that. But rather, yes, try to stick to whatever you hold to be true, whatever you hold to be noble. But when you find yourself reacting in a way that goes against what you believe to be the noble way you're supposed to be experiencing, the reactivity, I'm not saying continue to argue, I'm not saying continue to be angry, but rather stop and look at the anger and notice that, I am being angry because of some unconscious conviction. And just look at the anger, look at the reactivity that you have. And if you allow yourself to look at it, really just look at it, just experience it, just be with it. No matter how uncomfortable it may be, it will begin to point to you, to the unconscious convictions. And maybe one day, without I'm not saying at that very day, you will that very moment, you will find what is this unconscious conviction that you may have. But without knowing, without deliberately looking for it, a very authoritative idea or insight may come up to your mind, or a vision or a memory. And for some reason, you're able to connect that memory to, that's why I am angry. I'm angry. I react angrily in that way because there's this conviction that I'm holding in an unconscious way where I believe I don't deserve to be happy. Okay. And you can take this example you can take this example and apply it to many different kinds of things. Okay. One last thing I want to say before I go into questions and talking too much. So, some clarifications, okay? Some clarifications. What I'm calling identity is a ball of stuff, different levels of what we are holding to be true. And what's holding it together at the fundamental level is an unconscious conviction. And it's a conviction in the sense that, like, for example, I'm not worthy of happiness. There's some experience happened to me in this life, in this past life, as a baby, whenever, and it's holding my entire identity together, and it is this unconscious conviction, okay, and the reason that we are holding onto it is because we believe it to be true. It may not be, and most definitely, it is not ultimately true, but we believe it to be true. Okay, and that's what's holding it. Okay, so whatever reality that you experience, it comes from a process of somehow convincing yourself by whatever means, whether from outside, from within, or combination of the two, there is a truth that you're holding on to. Okay? Holding on to something, to some fundamental truth, to something as in fundamental truth is what props up reality. It is what props up an experience of this is my reality. Okay? And that's the process for whatever experience that we have that we say this is real. Okay? And because ultimately speaking, this is not something that is fixed. It is something that is very fluid. That is, what we hold as unconscious conviction can change. It can, the unconscious, in the same way, the unconscious conviction will and definitely influence the surface understanding of reality and how we experience reality. In the reverse can also happen, where at the surface level, we can influence what we hold as an unconscious conviction. And there will always be an unconscious conviction. Okay? It's not the process, it's not the very fact that we hold an unconscious conviction, somehow there's something wrong with that. But what is it that we are holding with as the unconscious conviction? Okay. And it's magical what you can do with this. And it's magical what you are doing with this. So if the reality that you're experiencing is a reality that you're not satisfied with, at the root of what's holding it up is its unconscious conviction. And we have to get to this unconscious conviction in order to change the reality. Because reality is made up of, it is held up by unconscious conviction. And because the nature of unconscious conviction is changeable, we can change our reality by changing our unconscious convictions. But to know what is what is it that we are holding as unconscious convictions, the way to know that is through our reactivity. So, and this is the thing I'm saying, be careful with this. Allow yourself to be reactive. I'm not saying that being reactive is the way to, it's like enlightenment. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying to get to enlightenment, we have to go through the road of reactivity, because the road of reactivity is pointing to what is it that we are holding unconsciously as truth, especially when it surprises us. That very fact that we are surprised means we are awake at some level. Because if we were not surprised, then we are sleeping inside of a sleep. We are sleeping, and in the sleep we are sleeping, and in the sleep we are sleeping. Okay, we are left different layers of sleeping. Okay, if we are not able to surprise ourselves. So when you surprise yourself in your reactivity to things, first thing I want you to do is to rejoice. An opportunity is presented itself where I can actually see something that is at some degree fundamental to my identity. Now I can know what is it that is holding this personality up? What is it that's holding it up? What is it that's allowing it to move through time and space, experience time and space? Okay. And understand that we're not stuck in any way, in any way that it's appearing to you, whether it's psychological, whether it's energetic, whether it's biological, in whatever way that you're experiencing. Okay, there is an unconscious conviction holding it, holding your biology, holding your sense of psychology, holding your sense of intelligence, your perception, all that. Okay. And because all these are changeable, then you can hold onto a conviction where the reality that you experience is a reality that you won't mind going forward with. And I'm not saying go out there and go create different realities, but rather understand that at their depth, they are changeable. That is, because at their depth, they're changeable, because at their depth, there is interconnectedness. That's if you're able to have that, your unconscious conviction, that changeable interconnectedness, if that is the unconscious conviction, then it doesn't matter what you prop up as reality. Okay, you will experience everything in a very different, very different way. Okay. I hope I covered everything. All right, and it's way over time. All right, I hope I covered it enough. And like I said before, I wasn't going to say this reaction points to this, but rather I'm leaving that for you to investigate. Okay, because my reactivity could be the same as your reactivity, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's pointing to the same, it reveals the same thing about it reveals the same one thing. Like what it reveals for you may be different from what it reveals for me, even though the surface of it appears the same. That's why I can't say this reaction comes from that, this reaction comes from this. Okay. Fear can give the appearance of compassion, as well as anger can give the appearance of compassion. Okay. So there are all these different layers to understand. And only through your investigation, looking at your actual experience, can you come to know what it reveals for you, what is there to be revealed for you. Okay. And that's really it. Now you can answer questions or make your comments.
Phuntsok, I have a question for you.
Yes.
I think I heard, my biased mind heard this, that you, when we want to change that unconscious conviction, or we want to change a conviction that we feel is pushing us in a certain way, that you said something about try to practice perceiving something different.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about, how do you, I would like to hear you say, what does that practice look like for you?
Okay. Oh, very good. Okay, I have an example. An example would be, let's say, like me, for example, I don't like aubergine. What's the name of it?
Eggplant.
Eggplant. I to the point where I can say I can't stand aubergine, right? And that is because of I'm making myself perceive signs that validates my my dislike for it. And whenever I see it, whenever I taste it, whenever, right? So I can consciously, deliberately look at aubergine and tell myself, look how beautiful it is. Look at that beautiful color. And then you could start to see a shift taking place where you might see one moment there's this repulsive thing in front of you, and a split second you see, oh wow, what a beautiful thing, an attractive thing. And that may not last long, but being able to perceive that moment where it actually shifts from being repulsive thing to something that is attractive, that tells us how through perception we can make ourselves perceive something. And I can even to the point where let's say I couldn't stand the color of aubergine. If that was the color, if that was one of the aspects of it, right? And I would tell myself, look at that beautiful color, look at that beautiful color, look at that beautiful color. Because of the association that I make with those words, it will bring up all these unconscious things that are associated with it. And then somehow it will create the reality of where I'm starting to see the very color that I saw as repulsive as having some sort of beauty. And I might see myself reacting to it differently. Instead of repulsion, there's attraction. And this is an example that I can think of. And the thing is, we do this, and we are able to observe this, where let's say someone's you have such anger towards someone that the very sound of their voice is it upsets you, right? You can, as you are hearing their voice, and it's not that you're forcing yourself not to have the reaction that's naturally there, but rather you notice that the reaction, and at the same time you can tell yourself, oh, their voice up, and actually find something, or the pitch, the tone, the something about it that you can somehow make you actually see, oh, that's some aspect of beauty. And then you can even in that moment make yourself hear their voice and actually have an attraction for it. And it doesn't mean that you should have an attraction for it or you should have a repulsion for it, make a choice, but rather to notice that these two things are changeable. That's the truth that you want to get to. These two things are changeable. Whether if you have an attraction for it and you should not, then you can make yourself see it as not being attractive. And it's something that you can do at the moment that it is happening by simply conjuring the words that conjures up all those unconscious parts of it. And they, at that, for some period of time, actually affect perception. And that's what, and it's those moments of where perception shifts in terms of I'm perceiving something that is now attractive or perceiving something that is repulsive, that you want to make to be able to actually observe, so that the hold that the other had will begin to crumble, because you're perceiving something, a different truth. I hope that was okay.
Thank you. That was perfect.
Okay. Anyone else has a comment, question?
Yeah, I had a question, Phuntsok.
Yeah.
I almost feel like this might not be a helpful question, but it is alive inside of me, so I will ask. You said that there will always be unconscious conviction.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious what happens in the process when we make unconscious conviction conscious, and kind of what you're talking about, needing to get to the root of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And intuitively, I feel like it becomes conscious, so then it's no longer unconscious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm curious if that endeavor is inexhaustible. We just keep finding unconscious convictions.
Mm-hmm.
Or, yeah, how does that process of transformation play into the process of there always being unconscious conviction?
Yeah. I have to explain myself. What I mean by that. So unconscious convictions, the reason that they are called that is because we're not aware of it, right? And eventually we arrive at a point, we want to arrive at a point where we are aware of them. Of course, when we are aware of them, they're no longer unconscious. But they're still convictions. The conviction can change, right? The conviction can change. Where we can remove a certain conviction and replace it with another conviction. Like, I don't know, I don't deserve happiness, where you replace it with I deserve happiness. Okay. So on the way to, we say, complete awakening, there will always be this measure of knowledge or knowing or holding onto truth that is not at the surface. That's what I mean by there will always be this unconscious conviction. So it doesn't necessarily mean that, let's say, for example, I supplanted the unconscious conviction, I don't deserve happiness, with unconscious conviction, I deserve happiness, right? But it doesn't mean that I'm always aware that at the deepest level of my being, that I hold on to a truth, to that I deserve happiness as being a truth. It's the driving force, driving me. And eventually you will get to a point where the conviction and the appearance of the appearance side, or the showing side of your personality, and what you might call the subjective side of you are no longer hidden from each other. Yes, there will be a point where the term unconscious will no longer apply, but there will be conviction. We say conviction at the deep level. Let's say when you become enlightened, for example, you're no longer experiencing aspects of yourself that are unknown to you. There's no unconscious aspect, but there are at the place where unconscious was holding on to conviction. Unconscious aspect is gone, but the conviction remains. Now your conviction is you could say, it's in accordance with nature of reality. Now that's what I meant by they will always be there. Talk about those layers will always be there. And as you're pointing out, depending on the stage that you're in your awakening, towards full awakening, what's unconscious slowly become conscious, slowly become conscious, slowly become conscious. But the deep layer of conviction remains. And it's when at the layer of unconscious conviction, when that is in attunement with the ultimate reality. So this becomes the conviction that is propelling your enlightenment, but it's not unconscious anymore, but it's still deep conviction. That's one of the terms that the Buddha used in describing awakening, where it says it is a turning at the deepest level of being. So this deep level of being always remain deep. But for us unenlightened beings, it's unconscious. The layer of unconscious is probably this much, and the layer of consciousness this much. So eventually it all becomes conscious, but it's still, depth, having depth. Hope that clarified a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the question. All right. Anybody else? Usually we would have a break into little groups. I wonder if, can you do that with Zooms? Break into little groups?
I think
maybe.
So. Can I ask a question?
Yes, yes.
I don't really get.
Abstaining. Oh my goodness.
I gotta lower this. Hold on a second. I gotta lower it. So I've got two computers going at the same time. I don't really understand this class.
Good.
I've taken at least 10 classes on interdependence, on emptiness, on not. Hold on a second. I gotta lower that other computer because it's giving feedback. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, now I got to raise this one. Okay.
Bob Stamen has been in the Buddhist world for a very long time, and the terms that I've been using probably very confusing for him.
Very confusing. I mean, like I'm taking like 10 classes on independent arising, on interdependence, on how everything exists because of interdependently. And my question is like this, and it's not like really a question about this class because I don't understand half of what you were talking about because I took the red pill and I dissolved myself and I don't think about myself too much in any terms. I mean, when you mention the only one I could think about is I do think of myself as a compassionate being and I have a heart feeling for that. So that's about it. But other than that, I really, I don't dwell on my feelings or on any of that stuff. But this is my question. There's two different, the two truths, the whole thing of like existing. When you talk about you're looking at yourself and there's dependent or not dependent arising, but everything exists interdependently. Is that existence, like if you're looking at that existence, Is that conventional or is that ultimate?
Yeah, that's why I didn't use those terms that you're familiar with, because I want you to experience this from a very fresh, hit you in the face kind of experience. If I were to say interdependent, and emptiness, all that kind of stuff, all those ideas that you already heard about, and you have not reached enlightenment, having heard them, you will just continue to propel yourself into not getting to enlightenment. So I want you to
say that. No, I
no,
think
wait,
helping me a lot.
Yeah. I'm just in a general. So I'm not talking about you personally, but I'm talking about in general, right? We have to re-experience those terms, because after some time, emptiness becomes the term itself. There's those words, emptiness. It becomes like hearing "hey." It doesn't do anything for you anymore. So you have to reintroduce it to yourself in the way that the way it impacted you the first time you heard it. It has to keep impacting you, just like before. And when the words themselves, emptiness, the words themselves don't do it, then you have to find some other words that point to what emptiness pointed to the first time it hit you. Okay? Now, asking your questions about interdependence, conventional reality, ultimate reality, I'm gonna punch you in the face with what I'm gonna say. Okay? There's only one reality. There is no ultimate. There's no conventional reality. There's only one reality that has. We can experience different sides of it. Okay? When we say ultimately, we are simply talking about at the most fundamental level of our experience, what is there? And what is the experience? It's what we are calling conventional. Whatever your experience is, whether you're enlightened, whether you're in samsara, that's reality. That's conventional. It doesn't mean that when you become enlightened, somehow you go into some reality called ultimate. There's no such thing. There's no such planet. There's no such universe. Okay? This experience you're having right now, this is what we are referring to when we're referring to ultimate. It's the ultimate of this experience. Okay? Ultimately. Now, you heard very well, you heard interdependence. What I was referring to, yeah, he's talking about interdependence. When I was talking about construct, that's what it means.
Oh.
What construct? Our personality is made up of construct, and constructs has different layers to it. You could say there are different layers to your personality. And this is what is the text we're referring to when they say you have to identify the object to be negated. When they say, and this is not supposed to be some scholastic endeavor or to get a PhD, in order to answer the question. It's what are the levels of your experience of self? That's what it's referring to. And at the deepest level, that is, what is it that's really holding everything up that you call yourself, that you call your experience? What is it that's holding it? And this is not pointing to some ultimate. This is still at the conventional. This is still at the interdependence level of speech. Okay? So the object to be negated means, what is it that you really believe to be yourself? Until you have
I think it's
mm-hmm.
in an ultimate sense, it's some kind of it's something that's like a light. It's like when you go clear light, clear light that goes from lifetime to lifetime, and that lifetime to lifetime, some of that stuff stays, but and that I'm trying to think if that's also not there. I mean, you could say some of it is there, but some of it's not there. Some of it from lifetime to lifetime, but some of it is not self-existent. And so I heard a good example, which was like, if you look at a jigsaw puzzle and then you say, there it is, but then it's all made of these different parts. But there it isn't. So that's my kind. One of the things I've heard. Or you go through the fun house and you think it's all real, and then you find out it's not real. You know, I mean, I've been dealing with this emptiness thing and conventional reality, the two truths, for God knows how long. But I've listened to at least 10 classes, some from His Holiness, some from Sling Ricochet. Very good classes. I mean, His Holiness did a classical class just the other day. It was a live class. I don't understand, you know, like, because I'm not thinking about myself all the time, but I know there's something conventional there. There's got to be, because, you know, you exist. But then if you go, well, form is empty, and if you go looking for yourself and then you can't find yourself, that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Form is empty. I can't find myself. I'm back to the Heart Sutra.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good, Bob. It's all about the experience of being Bob, and you shouldn't take anything out of it. You shouldn't. It shouldn't be, well, this part of being Bob is not what they're talking about. Okay. Your answer about your sense of being is light, and that's cute. Okay.
I haven't experienced it, but I mean, this is what they say that you.
Yeah, that's cute. Yeah. That's cute. That'll be very nice. Okay. But the thing is, do you experience, is that how you go through life? Experience.
I'll tell you when I die. I'll come back to haunt you. I don't know. I'll see what happens. But, you know, there's no soul, there's no Atman, there's something that goes on.
Yeah, all
they say there's no beginning to it. It's been there forever. It's not Bob.
Yeah. Now, all that, Bob, is Atman, not Atman, clear light, and all that kind of stuff. They're all tools to help us look at what's here. Okay? What is here? What is here?
Form.
And the
conventional reality.
Yeah.
Form.
Yeah, that's it. And then you go deeper into understanding what is appearing. Understanding what is appearing. Understand it. Try to understand what is appearing. Okay. Unless you have a sense, I mean, what is visceral sense of who you are, even if it's Bob is a compassionate person, right?
Yeah.
Unless you have that as a visceral understanding of who you are, you will not be able to have any direct experience of what is referred to as ultimate truth. That's what you need to have a visceral sense of. And if there is an idea of Bob being something else, but it has to be, and with this class is in how you are reacting spontaneously. It points to what you really believe yourself to be. If you really believe yourself to be light, you wouldn't be afraid for this body. You wouldn't be afraid of COVID-19. Okay, if you really believe that's who you are.
I accept that I'm afraid of it. I try not to go out too much. I got to.
Yeah, that means that means there's a part of you that is not yet convinced that you're light.
No.
And because that part of you is not yet convinced that you're not light, that's what's holding your reality. I am someone who's not light. That's a conviction. And it's creating your reality that makes you now react, oh, there's COVID, I better be afraid of it because I'm not light.
Oh yeah, that is part of my reality. I'm not really, don't really understand the idea of being luminous or being light or going from lifetime to life. I don't understand it. I'm just taking these classes, like at least 10 of them, and they're getting me closer. They do say that all of that stuff alleviates anger, because then you can't really hold on. You can't really hold on to anger. They say that seeing things as non-self-existent helps you with anger. I mean, this is what I've heard.
Yeah.
And
So let me ask you this question before you continue. What's wrong with anger?
I don't know. His Holiness says it
His
gives you
Holiness
gray
said.
hairs. Gray hairs, I don't know. Heartache, not pleasant. It's not a pleasant emotion.
Is that your experience?
My experience is I'm not too crazy about it. I'd rather not be angry, but sometimes, you know, it comes up and then I have to I don't suppress it. I just oh, you know, say there it is.
You know why it comes up?
It comes up, yeah.
You know why it comes up? Because you're convinced you need it.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Until you prove to yourself, until you look at anger and see its nature, you will not be able to use it or overcome it. Okay. And of course, what His Holiness said, get rid of anger, it's not just, okay, His Holiness said, let's get rid of anger, and that's the truth of it. The thing is, okay, let me look into this. And you have to sincerely look into it. What is wrong with anger that I have to get rid of it? What is it really talking about when he says get rid of anger? Oh, okay, he's talking about this aspect of this experience. Oh yeah, I see now what he means. But there are different layers to anger. There's some anger you need.
You're getting too philosophical for me.
I thought I was trying not to be philosophical. Okay, sorry, we passed the time. Thank you, Bob.
Thanks. Are you doing the VY teachings?
What are you talking about?
I missed them all.
What are you talking about?
I missed them all.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, VY, these teachings on tantric thing, the tantric thing. The VY.
We'll talk. We'll talk.
Well, I'll see if I get it from you.
Okay.
I know I missed all of them, but.
Talk to Michael Wick. Talk to Michael Wick.
He's going to send me something.
Yeah, talk to Michael Wick.
Okay.
All right. Okay, guys. We have to. It's past 9:30. Even though. Okay. Thank you very much for the questions, everybody, and thank you very much for showing up. Thank you very much for sticking around. And it's time for you to take it away, Mr. Emmett.
Do we have time for a quick closing dedication?
Oh, yes, we do. Okay. All right. Let's do the closing dedication. Oh, yeah, we have to do that beautiful meditation that we're supposed to be doing all the time for closing. Okay. All right. Go back to, and if you have questions that you didn't have a chance to ask now, maybe because of what came up, a question came up for you, then you can email me the question. Okay. All right. Quickly put your body into the posture conducive to meditation. And vividly as you can, recall the experience of being in a meditative state and let that very recollection give you a taste again of the meditative state. How it felt in the body, how it felt in the breath, how it felt in the mind. And having that taste, let's stabilize with a nice deep breath in through the nose. Breathe deeply, gently breathe in. And through the mouth, just let go. And as soon as you have that taste, stay with that taste. Even if it's just a memory of the taste, stay with it. And have a sense of all of us, whatever that means for you, all of us. See all of us surrounding, creating a circle. And in the center of the circle is the us, the collective us, appearing as a bright presence. We are connected to it by a by a string of light. It is empowering us and we are empowering it. And as we stay connected to our sense of usness, that center composite us begins to expand, expand, taking more space, expand, expand, until we are all absorbed into that light. As we are absorbed into that light, we experience the mystery of being ourselves and yet being us, without it contradicting, without that being contradictory. And it continues to expand, filling all the space where we are, going beyond the space where we are, including the neighborhood, until this all beings, all space is enveloped by this light, us. This planet is us. And gently it comes, the light begins to recede until it goes back to just being in the center of our circle. And this time, from the center, it sort of slowly radiates itself into each one of us. And individually, we feel ourselves as an individual and at the same time as us. Whatever you may have gained through this, your own innate wisdom, be grateful and share it by making a dedication. Think of something that is of concern to you and dedicate tonight's gifts. And collectively, Gewa Di Kyo Kun Sunam Yeshe Tsogzo Shin Sunam Yeshe Lejong Damba Goyi Toba Sho. And feel yourself in just the space of the meditation, noticing the calm, the pleasantness, whatever degree you're experiencing them, rejoice. Make the intention to arise from the meditation with that intention. Take a nice deep breath in through the nose, out the mouth, here and feel it. And with that, gently, deliberately reconnect with your immediate surroundings, your sense of touch, feel the temperature again, feel the feel of the clothes on you, hear the different sounds, and see the different lights, the different colors, the different shapes. And gracias. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Phuntsok. The class is amazing. I'm really glad I asked the question. Everyone else on the call, I just posted 2 links in the chat. You can see there's a link to Phuntsok's Patreon page, and this video will be up there. You can rewatch that. All recordings from months and months back, they're all up on there. And if it's available to you, please support these classes by donating through the Patreon page. I also put a link up to an Instagram page that we've started for Phuntsok at Home. So we're going to be collecting things there and sharing and interacting. So if you have Instagram, feel free to click on that link and you can start following Phuntsok there. And I'll be posting some content on there as well. I think that does it. Yeah, if you have any questions, topics that you'd like to discuss in these classes, on Patreon, there's a there's the ability to send a message. So just send a message and ask the question on there, and we'll sort it out and see if we can have a class on that topic. So thank you so much. Thank you, Phuntsok. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thank you.
Phuntsok.
Hey.
Hey.
How you doing?
It's good. Good to see you.